Thank you for joining and welcome. I'm opening the technical section talks today here in first track. And my topic for today is usage of SlackOps for automation. First of all, let me introduce myself. My name is Dmitrii. I work at Kaufland e-commerce. So what a Kaufland e-commerce is, we build and operate Kaufland.de. It is, by the way, one of the biggest marketplaces in Germany. My role in the company, I work in the area what we call developer experience and platform. So what does it mean? It means we are not building solutions for people who are buying on the Kaufland.de. Instead, my teams, we build solutions for software engineers who work within our company. So we serve our own internal developers. Speaking of developer experience, what does it mean in general? It means taking care of productivity, efficiency, and in the end, happiness of software engineers within your company. And one of the important layers of it is collaboration and communication between internal teams and platform teams. What does it mean? So whenever you're a developer in the company, you might need to request software licenses or maybe permissions, even to production, like if it's going to troubleshooting. It might be requesting infrastructure resources or maybe consultancy questions like architectural questions, or maybe, as I said, troubleshooting requests. Like as a regular software engineer, if you experience, let's say, high latency in production, how do you deal with it? You usually have no knowledge of it, so you need to collaborate with platform teams. How do you solve all these questions? Well, in smaller companies, you can, just go to another room, ask somebody for help, and probably your problem will be resolved within 5 minutes. It's not the case for bigger companies because it doesn't scale like this. And bigger companies experience other challenges within this process. So all such requests, they need to be, first of all, auditable, like especially when it comes to production permissions. If you're troubleshooting something, you might have requested elevated permissions, which needs to be written down why you need it, for how long, who has requested it, etc. Then the process should be bulletproof. You cannot forget about any requests. You should serve all of them, and you need to serve them quickly and as user-friendly as possible. And of course, scalability of the process is a problem. Whenever your company is growing, then you also need to think how you scale this process. How can you solve all of these requirements? Well, we're software engineers. First idea which comes to our mind is automation. So why do you even need to speak to other humans if you can expose some services as self-service? Like maybe you can click a button and get a new database provisioned, or maybe a new microservice spun up. There are cases where it's not possible, especially when we're talking about troubleshooting or maybe consultancy requests. Then you need to have a process, I don't know, some kind of ticketing process or maybe rotation system for people who are helping you. And there might be combinations of both. So maybe part of the workflow can be automated and part of the flow still requires humans' interactions. And let's speak about every aspect of it in a bit more details. So self-service, how can you expose it? What should be user interface for it? Well, it might be a CLI interface. 1, 2, 3. It might be a CLI interface. So for example, you might expose your custom CLI interface, or you might just give permissions for people to interact with Kubernetes. You might leverage existing UI tools, like all the companies nowadays are using continuous integration systems. Let's say, why should they request a platform team to do a rollback? You can just expose a button there, let's click it and have a rollback done. You might build very custom user interfaces. This is an example from our backstage. So custom user interface where we provide functionality for engineers to create new microservice. Like they fill a form, they select a programming language, a framework, maybe which infrastructure resources do they need, and then it's done. Code is copied from template, and you can work with it. The last example here is what I will be speaking about today is Slack bots. So in general, you can leverage other tools which are available in your company. This is an example of our incident bot. This is a custom bot. We have a process whenever there is a production incident, like something doesn't work. People can just write in a Slack channel, report it, so that also everybody is aware of it. But we need statistics for it. And therefore, bot is asking you, hey, do you want to raise an incident? And later we can do proper analysis, post-mortem, etc. The second aspect, request workflow. You still need to have a workflow and a process for it. I have listed all those requirements in general, and we wanted to focus on the process being fast and easy to use or user-friendly. And the idea which came to our mind was, let's look at Slack, because Slack is our main communication tool in the company. So we work remotely, all the written communication comes to Slack. Every engineer has it open and looks at it like every 5 minutes or so. So we definitely can solve the last problem on the slide. But what about automation and integrations? And actually, it can be solved with Slack. But first, we started with the process definition. So this is how it works for us. We have a centralized Slack channel, pretty big one, for all the platform requests. And developers can request whatever they need, like asking for help, having a trouble with something, requesting a new resource. In Slack, there is a functionality of threads to every message. So people can follow, they can ask follow-up questions, they can collaborate, they can even probably have a meeting right there. And it is also written and available for everyone in the company. So it can be a source of truth for knowledge. So process-wise, it worked pretty well, but we wanted to go further and we introduced some automation around it. So we implemented it, we call the process triage. So origins of this word comes from kind of prioritization framework. And the bot is working the following way. You trigger the bot. On the first step, you need to select a category of your request. On the second, you just put a message, like whatever free format text message with all the normal Slack formatting, with emojis, code blocks. And then you just submit it, and it's visible again for everyone. People can respond. But now only triage bot can post messages into Slack, into this channel. How does it work for us internally as for platform team? Well, we have multiple platform teams, and every request is now automatically assigned to a specific team. And there is also built-in Slack functionality for it. It's called lists. I think it was released this year, but we already leverage it. So every request can be represented as a card, kind of ticket, and the list itself is kind of Kanban board. So you can track which requests have been served, just move it from left to right as an usual Kanban board. The process worked for us pretty well for quite some time, and I think I can summarize what works well. So first of all, requests are auditable nowadays. They're recorded and they're immutable. Immutable because Slack doesn't allow you to modify messages posted by the bot. The whole channel serves for us as kind of internal Stack Overflow, so a knowledge base. And people can easily search for previous requests and see how the same problem has been solved previously. It is very quick because serving platform team engineers receive notification instantly, and you don't have to wait for like half a day for support engineer to answer it. This is how it works in bigger companies, at least how I have seen it before. I have written it's user-friendly. How do we know it's user-friendly? Well, we do surveys for engineers, and the rating is pretty high for the whole process. Besides communication aspects in Slack, since it's a custom bot, it's a custom code, you can build a lot of custom integrations around it. In the screenshot, there is an example of AI integration, for example. Let's say a developer requested a rollback. We have a very decent internal technical documentation, and we show suggestions for specific types of requests. Like maybe you don't even need to ask us to do a rollback. There are different options to do it by yourself. This is a small paragraph of text, and you can click a link, read documentation, and do it by yourself. And the last but not least, statistics. For me, as a manager, it's critical to have statistics, to have data, to analyze number of requests, maybe average resolution time, maybe were there any requests not closed the previous week or something like this. And based on this data, we make decisions further. Now, what's the point of the whole presentation? Like, am I encouraging you to use SlackOps or Slack as integration tool for automating everything in the company? Obviously, no. We also see boundaries. We also see limitations of the approach. But it worked pretty well for us for few use cases. First, it is a great tool for use cases where a lot of interactions and collaborations come. So whenever humans need to speak to humans, it works perfectly fine. It also serves great requests where simple or frequent actions are necessary, even if they are completely automated. What about limitations? Well, first of all, it's a huge vendor lock. Of course, we build things on top of Slack, which is just a proprietary tool. If at some point we decide against using it, then we need to rebuild it. This is just a risk which we accept in the company, so it's fine for us, but obviously a thing to consider. But also Slack is, of course, not a great tool for building complicated user interfaces or complicated flows. Like if you want to display a service catalog, or you want to have a huge form with multiple checkboxes or input fields, Slack is not the best tool for it. How do we solve this challenge? Well, as I said, we do use different tools, so we want to look at the problem holistically and build, in general, internal development platform. So we expose different solutions, different tooling for different use cases. And this is how we work off developer experience in our company. And I think that's it from my side. Thank you for listening. I'm happy to answer your questions if you have any.
Dann fange ich einmal bei Ihnen an.
Hello, my name is Alexander. I have a question. How do you do follow-ups? So, for example, one user is creating requests, but then developer realizes that there are not enough information to cover this. And how do you implement? Another question, if this is impossible to do. So, what you're doing with tickets which takes longer than expected. Let's say user assume it should be done in 1 hour, and it will be done in 1 month. Thank you.
So the first question is requests with not enough information. And the second question is how do we deal with waiting time? Like we cannot serve it immediately. Okay, the first question, this is exactly where Slack shines. So for example, a developer asked us for help, but they forgot to mention, I don't know, microservice name, or they forgot to provide details. Happens. First of all, for specific categories of requests, we make hints before submitting requests. For example, hey, didn't you forget to provide this and that? But things happen anyway. We're all humans. And this is where Slack shines because of threads functionality. So whenever a message is posted, a serving platform engineer can just jump in and ask follow-up questions in the same thread. Something like, hey, I got your problem, but you forgot to tell me this piece of information. They just collaborate. I mean, it's instant messaging system, kind of takes 2 minutes. And yeah, then they have enough information and the request can be served. The second question was, okay. If an engineer in rotation is busy, for example, or I don't know, there is an incident. Well, first of all, the whole process is not supposed to be serving urgent incident problems. For incidents, we have completely different process where people are available instantly. This is more for requests which can be served, let's say, within few hours or within one day. And within one day, we definitely have enough engineers or we have enough capacity to serve such requests. So yes, we have internal SLOs, so kind of waiting time. It depends on capacity, but honestly, it works pretty fast on average, just because we manage expectations this way, I would say.
Any other questions?
Hi, Dmitrii. Thanks for the presentation. My name is Rajesh. Question is, how are you recording the statistics? And other than SLA, what numbers are you looking at? And what numbers are you giving your boss? Thank you.
Great question, thank you. So since it is a custom Slack bot, it's a code which we can modify anytime. We have just a database which records all the requests, all the details, all the categories of requests. And therefore we have our own data warehouse. Usually it serves the business purpose, but we just reuse it for the same purpose. So we export all this data to our data warehouse, and then we build a lot of charts and dashboards for it. So every day I can open a dashboard and I can see like, okay, how many requests did we have this month? Is it growing? Is it fine? What is the average response time, etc. Regarding SLOs and SLAs, so for every category of requests, we have different SLOs, and it's totally transparent for engineers in the company. It's written in documentation. Like, if person is asking us to, I don't know, create a new database, it's like the page says something like within few hours, it's usually possible. For things like troubleshooting, we are of course more conservative because we know that troubleshooting might take more time. So we just manage expectations. Okay, it will take maybe a day or maybe even two. Regarding whether I need to report these numbers, actually, not really. We're more like a flat company. So I think I'm the guy who is looking at these numbers, and I'm like the top manager who is actually caring about it. Yeah.
Any other questions? Okay.
Thank you. Have a nice day.